Hello everyone, welcome to Tower Academy. In today's video, I want to look at Mfecane as a piece of history in South Africa. So to look at what it was, the causes of Mfecane, the cause of Mfecane, and then the effects of Mfecane. So what was Mfecane? The term Mfecane refers to the period of trouble, great suffering and wandering of the people of South Africa during the early 19th century. To the Sotho, it was described as Mfecane, meaning suffering, scattering, and crushing of people. It occurs during the first half of the 19th century in South Africa, around the Natal province. Mfecane also stood for a period of forced migration in South Africa, where different people were forced to move away in search of peace and security. So what caused Mfecane? So let's look at the causes of Mfecane. Mfecane started with Dingiswayo, a king of the Mthethwa, whose reform set pace for the Great Revolution that we are talking about now. Dingiswayo, king of the Mthethwa, met with a European known as Robert Cohen at the Cape, who taught him new tactics of fighting, of warfare. He learned how to use a gun and a horse, which he used to fight his neighbors, resulting into Mfecane. So he used to attack different neighboring states, causing suffering and trouble and attacking them. So we're seeing the rapid increase of population among the Zulu resulted into shortage of land for agriculture, animal rearing and settlement. This forced the Zulu to invade the neighboring societies for more land, which later caused Mfecane. The Boer expansion of the Cape to the interior threatened the Bantu communities such as the Xhosa, Podo, the Zulu, and the Mthethwa people. So they started to create strong military states for defense against this invasion. Thus, in the process of state formation, the Zulu clashed with the neighbors, leading to Mfecane. The emergence of strong military leaders who desired to create strong military states, for example, Shaka, the Zulu king, created this period of suffering in terms of trying to expand their kingdoms and chiefdoms. Mfecane was also caused by civil wars among the various tribes and clans, which fought each other for defense and expansion, plus food. The emergence of desperate wandering groups of the refugees such as the Fingo and the Hilumbi caused more chaos, since they plundered other societies for food. Mfecane was also caused by frequent cattle raids among the Nguni tribes. So the rise of the Shaka, king of the Zulu, with his ambitious military reforms such as the use of a sege, that was called the short-stabbing spear, creation of strong army under the Indunas, an age remit system, use of cow formation to fight. This encouraged wars among the Zulu people, which caused Mfecane a period of suffering, as he terrorized his neighboring societies such as the Ndwandwe, and their reaction resulted into Mfecane moving away in search of peaceful areas. The death of Shaka's mother greatly caused a period of suffering. Nandi, who died in 1828, worsened the situation and caused forced migration. Shaka declared a year of national mourning in the whole kingdom. During this period, no person was to eat meat or drink milk. Food cultivation and having sex were prohibited. No woman was to become pregnant, and even all people were to weep daily with wet eyes. Such conditions created a period of suffering and misery and famine among the people of the Zulu and the neighboring societies, which forced many to migrate, thus causing this period known as Mfecane. Following the death of Thaka's mother, Nandi, over 3,000 old women accused of the death of Nandi were killed by Shaka's army. Most pregnant women were also killed. So the internal conflicts contributed greatly to Mfecane. For example, Shaka was killed by his half-brother, Dingani and Mlangani, with the help of Chief Nduna Mupomba. So the causes of Mfecane were both short and long term, contributing to this period of suffering. So we want to dive in and look at how people managed to move and leave this suffering and trouble behind them. So the cause of Mfecane. The weak societies fled under their leaders to distant places, avoiding continuous wars and insecurity, and they took the following directions. The Ndebele, led by one of the most trusted Indunas of Shaka called Muzulikazi, crossed Drakensberg Mountains, moved northwards, and finally settled in the present-day Zimbabwe, where they established Ndebele Kingdom. The Kololo under Sebitwane moved northwards into Barast's land, where they finally crossed Lozi Kingdom in Central Africa. The Nguni moved northwards, led by the Zwangi Ndaba. They crossed River Limpopo, moved through Zimbabwe, and finally settled in Ufipa Plateau in south Tanganyika. By 1840, where they became known as the Nguni, another group of the Nguni, led by Maputo, moved northeastwards through Mozambique and settled at Zongea in southeastern Tanganyika. Shangane, led by Soshangani, moved northeastwards into present-day Mozambique, where they established the Gaza Kingdom. The Ngwane, led by the Sobuza, moved northwards into Swaziland, where they established Swaz Kingdom. The Tulokwa were led by a powerful queen called Matatisi, and moved westwards across the high veld and settled in Botswana. So we're saying these refugees greatly caused insecurity, loss of lives, destruction of property in societies where they passed and settled. So effects of Mfecane. How did this period affect the people of South Africa and the neighboring societies? So Mfecane was affect the people of South Africa both positively and negatively as follows. Effects of Mfecane. So Mfecane greatly affect the people of South Africa and the neighboring states. Mfecane was led to loss of political independence of the weaker states, for example the Ndwandwe, Hilubi, Ngwane, Tirokwa, among others. Mfecane resulted into state formation as many small chiefdoms were merged together to create strong states for defensive purpose. For example, the Ndebele, Gaza, Lozi, Sotho, and Swazi, mentioned but a few. Mfecane led to the spread of Nguni language, cultures, and customs to many conquered tribes. Shaka became the most feared king in the area. There was population distribution of Bantu tribes in South Africa. Mfecane weakened so many African societies against foreign intrusion, for example the Boers and the British. The neighboring chiefs lost their traditional powers and independence because they were attacked and then rooted and then assimilated into these powerful kingdoms. Some areas such as Eastern Cape, Basutoland, Swaziland became overpopulated as most people ran there for safety. The Mfecane created national unity and cohesion as many small states united into strong defensive kingdoms to defend against the intrusion and attacks from these other powerful kingdoms like the Zulu. Mfecane caused famine in the entire region, which resulted into suffering and misery among the people of South Africa. Many people died due to endless wars, starvation, and famine. Valuable properties such as homestead, crops, livestock, among others, were destroyed by Shaka's warriors using scorched earth policy. There was massive depopulation due to high death toll and immigration away from war-torn areas in areas of Natal. The vacant large pieces of land created by Mfecane, where people were living and going to safer places, led to great trek by the Boers in the 1830s. The Zulu military tactics of fighting in weapons such as the Age Regiment, Skull Formation, Attack, and the Sege, mentioned by the few, were copied by other societies to create their chiefdoms and kingdoms. For example, the Nguni, the Sotho, and Shangani copied these tactics and used them for defense. Mfecane caused loneliness, abuse of human rights by warriors. They murdered people, raped women, and raided their property. It led to rise of military leaders with distinguished military ambitions and qualities such as Moshesh, Shoguza, Mzilikazi, and Zwangendaba. Many people were displaced from their land to foreign places to save their lives. For example, the Ndebele people Nguni, Kololo, Tilokwa, and Hilube. Agriculture was disrupted, which affected the economy of South Africa. Mfecane led to poverty, suffering, and misery within the people of South Africa. Mfecane disrupted the trade since most people were on the run to save their lives. Mfecane led to the emergence of groups, refugees, and wanderers who became servants and beggars, for example the Hulubi and Fingo. Mfecane led to death of strong leaders such as Ling Swai, Shaka, and Zwide. Many helpless people turned to cannibalism as a way of surviving due to shortage of food. Other societies were pushed into bad places such as mountain tops, valleys, forests, on the fringe of Kalahari Desert, which caused misery and suffering, and most of them died due to starvation. So Mfecane up to date is remembered in the history of South Africa as a period of suffering and trouble caused by expansionist policies of different kingdoms, for example the Zulu and the Mtwati people, which caused great suffering and resulted to lots of death and depopulation of the southern part of South Africa. Thank you for sticking with us up to the end. I want to say thank you for being part of our channel. At this point in time, I want to remind you to subscribe to our channel, and above all, also check out our website www.toweracademy.com for more courses. See you there.